Hello everyone, my name is Nathan Cholin, and tonight I am here to talk to you about why history is so important. Has anyone ever seen the movie Gladiator with Russell Crowe? Well, in it, if you have seen it, he gives a very motivational speech before he goes into battle against the fierce warriors and barbaric tribes of the north, the Gauls, and the Celtic tribes of that day in northern Europe. Well, before going into battle, he gives a motivational speech to his Roman legions, and in it he says, "What we do in life echoes in eternity." One of my favorite quotes. And that statement still rings true today. The topic I would like to talk to you about is not an easy one, and mainly because a lot of people in today's society don't really care for history much, don't like to take it in school, they think it's boring. But history can offer us a lot of different things. As one of my friends put it though, he said, "Why should I care about history? It was in the past and it doesn't concern me today." Well, he's right, isn't he? I mean, after all, it was in the past, and what does it play in our future, and what does it play in our present? The best credible statement I can give you is this: I love history and have always been a student of it. Oh, and the fact that I tested out of my first year of college history in 2 hours, the whole thing. So, you know I like it, and I'm pretty good at it. My main points will be the roots of your past, our history, knowing your history to better understand the present. Point number 1, the roots of your past, or more specifically, the roots of your family's past, make you who you are today. Within each of us, we carry what's called a genome, or a genetic template that has been handed down to us by our ancestors, and it makes us who we are today. So understanding who we are is essential to our well-being and the growth as a human being. Part of understanding of who we are is knowing what we came from so long ago and what cultures and languages that still connect us even to this day. Sometimes in life you encounter people who seem like they're out of place, or their life holds no, they think their life holds no meaning, and they don't know who they are in a sense. Knowing your roots is not just a good idea, but it is also empowerment. Empowerment to go out into this world and say, I know who I am, and I hold purpose, and I hold value. The study of your roots is a very rewarding one as well. After all, each of us are living histories in ourselves. So, knowing these facts about your roots and yourself can better understand how to look at it from another's perspective, and how we as the people of this world can learn from our mistakes by knowing our history and our past. Our history is peppered with thousands of examples that come to mind, but I would only like to mention a few, and I want to try and draw a parallelism between them. The American Revolution, with many thousands of examples on both sides, but the American Revolution was born out of oppressed colonies by the British Empire. The British Empire learned that people will not be oppressed indefinitely and one day will rise up and fight for freedom. Just a few short years after the American Revolution, another revolution took place, and we all know it as the French Revolution. A more bloodier revolution. So with each time you see comes another transition. So they learned from what I'm trying to say is they learned from our revolution, and within a few short years they say, hey, if the Americans can do it against the British Empire, we can overthrow our monarchy here in France and create our own revolution. And so they did. France in the year 1789 took up their own revolution and overthrew the French monarchy and established their own democratic republican government. World War I started over the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and all these countries, because they were allies with this person and that person, they all decided to engage in the first global war. At the end of the war, at the peace treaty of Versailles, as we know it, the Allies really handed it to the Germans and made them pay for war reparations that it cost a fortune in German marks to even buy groceries for your family, which really inflamed the German people. This caused the German economy to crumble, and it gave rise to people that were fanatics, such as Adolf Hitler, a voice into the government and why they should be treated better and stop having to pay for war reparations, because the whole World War I cost was put on the German people. And if you look at it, World War I was a continuation, and World War II was what happened. It was its second war. It was really, if you look at it, the politics and what was happening, it was all really one big war. We call them two separate wars, but really they started and it never really ended. It only continued on 20 years later or so with the rise of Adolf Hitler to power. So what I'm trying to say is and show is the parallelism between these examples that I just showed you on how they learned from their history and how they moved forward, or if they didn't learn from their history and they continued on and made some of the same mistakes as before. So knowing your history to help better understand your present. That might be an understatement, but very true. We must make an effort to understand and learn from our history and make better decisions in the future. Knowing your history will help shape your worldview. It will help you understand what happens today in government and politics that shape our world. It gives you a sense of accomplishment with knowing your history. To summarize, what we have learned is that history is important to us even today, and it brings us one step closer to knowing who we are individually as well as a species. We can learn from our past to help create a brighter future and not make the same mistakes we once did. And lastly, it will give you a better understanding of how the world around you is shaped. Closing statement. So I hope I have persuaded you to take another look into history and remember why it is important. As Confucius once said, our greatest glory is in not never falling, but rising every time we fall. And as a nation, if we can learn from our mistakes in our past, yes, we may fall again, but you can depend on us to always rise again. Thank you so much.